guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allison. I go by the pen name A.G.M. Campbell, or at least I will later this year when I self-publish for the first time. I am going to be self-publishing a YA fantasy series, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a few big inspirations for my series. Just like the ideas for the characters, the plot, the places, basically everything. These are things that inspire me just every day in my writing in general, not just this series. But I thought I'd go into depth today and explain some of my biggest inspirations so that you get a little sneaky peek about what my series might be like, to see if, if it's your cup of tea. So stick around and we'll get right into that. Buffy is my favorite show of all time, and it's been a huge inspiration to me in much of my writing, but particularly this series. For one, it centers on a group of high school students and later college students, and their dealings with the supernatural. The main character, her calling in life is to slay the vampires that prowl their town. And while my main character doesn't have a calling, so to speak, she does have special abilities, and she meets other people that have special abilities and are supernatural. So the supernaturals in my series aren't necessarily evil just because they're supernatural. But Buffy still inspires me a lot because of how it incorporates magic and humor and a balance between light and dark and a dialogue on basically what's right and what's wrong. And of course, the romance. Everyone loves the romance, and I do most of all. I intend to write some books that are mostly romance, but for these, it's just YA fantasy with, a few good romance plots, because I can't write anything without incorporating romance somehow, for the most part. And so, of course, romance inspires me in any fandom, but especially Buffy, because the age group is right, and they've got all these big, well, demons, literally and figuratively, that they're dealing with. So they're not just high school students or college students. They have the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I think that's a really fascinating premise. So in my series, I play around with that a bit. Sort of the life or death situations, but, messing with what a teenager would normally go through. So I like to incorporate supernatural aspects into everyday life. So you'll see my characters do normal things a teenager would do, like go to school or go to a school dance or go on a first date, etc. I don't want to give too much away. But there's this supernatural aspect to it that I think makes it more colorful and exciting. When it comes to film, I think a soundtrack can make or break the entire experience because music is there to add so much emotion to the scene, conveying the genre and what the characters are feeling. And so, soundtracks, I've always noticed them my whole life, basically, because music is a passion of mine. And whenever I write, I'm basically seeing a movie inside my head. So it makes sense that I would need a soundtrack for that movie in my head. And so for every novel that I've written, and sometimes short stories, I usually make a playlist on Spotify or a CD, anywhere really, with a list of songs that I think applies to my story. Sometimes the songs have words that emulate what my character might be thinking or feeling or experiencing in a scene. And sometimes it's instrumental. I really like listening to soundtracks while I write because it's a blank canvas on which I can add any characters, any situation. And there are soundtracks for every mood or theme already out there. And that way I can utilize the stories that have already been told in a different way to gain inspiration. Because it's not like I'm watching these movies every day, but I may be listening to the soundtracks every day. And it really helps my writing because I can imagine a scene more vividly if I'm listening to a song that suits it. Besides its soundtrack, The Lord of the Rings does, of course, inspire me a ton in many other ways, both the books and the movies, because, of course, it's an iconic story in the fantasy world, and since fantasy has been such a big part of my life for so long, I basically feel like I live in Middle Earth, because I was really young when I became attached to these movies, and they still inspire me as an adult. I love imagining a beautiful, elaborate, fictional world where there are creatures other than just humans who have different abilities, different characteristics, and I just find this idea fascinating that a person could escape into a world like this, which is part of why my series is what's known as a portal fantasy. So there are aspects of real life, but they also go to a place that is not like what they know. It's a place that coexists, but it's a secret kept by, well, a magical species, and the humans are unaware of it. And I think keeping magic a secret is, well, it's a controversy in my story and many others, and it's one that I really enjoy exploring. There's also the matter of good versus evil, which is present in this series and a lot of fantasy series. And I also like to explore the good, the bad, and those gray areas in between in particular in my writing. Another big inspiration for me is reading young adult series like this one here, the House of Night series, which is a series about vampires. I only have 3, but there are quite a few books in the series. And they're all black and have moons, and they're shiny and beautiful. And I believe the first one in the series is called Marked. And it's basically about how you get this group of teenagers at this school. They're vampires. It's like a vampire academy, essentially. And these kids are what's called marked, chosen to become these fledgling vampires, and they go to this school to learn different mystical subjects. And you know, of course, there's these evil plots under the surface that they have to deal with, and you know, it gets juicy. That's why there's so many books. And the aesthetics of this series, I really enjoy it because it's like almost goth, but but not. You know, it's like that kind of dark,
like heavy, where they're dealing with like tough real life situations and good versus evil, all of that. And also they're dealing with, you know, coming of age and all that garbage that comes with that. And since they are in that weird in-between stage of like high school, college, you know, and beyond, possibly, there's also, you know, sexuality being discovered, being explored. And I enjoy exploring all of those subjects. So while, you know, the first book or two, you know, they're more tame than the other ones because the characters are still young. But my main character starts off, she's a senior in high school in the first book. So, you know, in college, it's a little bit more mature. So it's, if new adult were a thing, I would probably call it more new adult than young adult. But since it's that borderline, we'll just call it upper YA, upper young adult. Because there is some adult content, but it's nothing too crazy, and it's just what comes with maturing. I really enjoy these darker kinds of stories with supernatural beings, and like it's kind of sexy sometimes, and yeah, that's pretty much my thing. And the next thing that has inspired me a lot is just the way books are formatted, specifically in the young adult genre. My example is actually not fantasy at all, but it is the Princess Diaries series. I would have grabbed the first one, but it's kind of well loved and tattered, so I thought I'd grab a nicer copy. And so basically, with this book, it's written in diary entries, and at the beginning of each chapter or entry, there's a heading that tells you what day it is and the location, and it's like that for the whole series, and I just really like that format. Some of them are long entries, some of them are short. But so I use that in my series. I also drew inspiration from series that have multiple points of view, because my series has multiple points of view. I don't have any concrete examples with me, but combining that with these headings, that is the format of my series, because I have different chapters from different points of view, and they all have headings that lay out whose perspective we're looking through and when it is and where it is. I just really like laying out the setting ahead of time so that you don't have to, you know, waste any time trying to figure out what's going on or where we are in the story. You can just jump right in. So that's why formatting is an inspiration to me. And just like spending so many years reading, I can't help but notice things that I like or don't like about other series or just standalones even. So formatting is a big one though. If I am reading a book where I don't like the formatting, it's kind of a turnoff to me. It doesn't mean I won't like the book or that I will stop reading, but it just, I don't know, kind of rubs me the wrong way. So yeah, I'm kind of picky about the way things are formatted, which is another reason why self-publishing is gonna be so great. My next biggest inspiration is pretty different compared to the other ones I've listed so far, and that would just be like people that I've met in my life, specifically twins. Yes, there's a pair of twins in my series, and they're very, you know, close to my heart, because all my characters are my children, essentially. And I suspect I was mostly inspired because about the time that I started writing this series, I had two very good friends who were twins, and they were the coolest. They still are, and they've always been a huge inspiration to me. Just like creatively, and they just brought so much joy into my life. And I just think twins are, I'm like fascinated by that connection between two siblings that just because they were born at the same time and yet they're like so linked. And I know twins show up a lot in a lot of books and book series, so I'm not the only one who has this fascination. I also went to school with quite a few pairs of twins and even a set of triplets, so I feel like I've been surrounded by them my whole life. So it was impossible for me to forget how cool twins can be. So I was inspired to write twins. I also had a really good relationship with my 3 siblings. None of us were twins. We don't have any twins in my family, but I've always been fascinated by sibling relationships and bonds, and so that's why I wrote 2 siblings that are so closely bonded. So those are some of my biggest inspirations for my young adult fantasy series that will be coming out this fall. Fingers crossed. And I really appreciate you sticking around and watching this whole video. If you enjoyed this, please give a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this, and if you want to hear more about my series, like maybe the name of my series, or even the name of my first book. So leave a comment if you have any questions, or if you can relate to being inspired by some of these things, and I would love to catch you watching my next video. Bye!